Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Scott, and I'm going to be telling you about the difference between male and female communication, specifically nonverbal and verbal communication. From my personal experience, I grew up with 4 boys, so I kind of understand how males tend to communicate. I will be telling you a story that demonstrates an example of male communication in my life. We were sitting in church one day, and I heard my brother's roughhousing next to me, and I just brushed it off. I was trying to watch the speaker, and I sat there and I just kept hearing them roughhousing, and then I heard the worst sound you could hear in church, a huge smack on my brother's head, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And my brother started crying, and my mom was furious, so she grabbed both of them and she went out of the chapel. And about 5 minutes later, they come back and it's like nothing even happened. Like they are totally fine with each other. They're laughing. They're best friends again. And it was like the weirdest thing ever. And then I went to college and now I room with 7 girls and it is completely different. It's like everyone has tons of feelings and they tend to express them a lot more than boys tend to express feelings, and there's no roughhousing, there's no aspects of communication. It's like totally different, night and day. So I wanted to tell you also from the research that I have found some of the different ways that male and females tend to communicate. So let's begin with the most obvious form of communication, verbal. Verbal communication includes the language we speak to others and the tone of voice we use when we're talking to them. In this video I was watching called War of the Sexes, it is found that women tend to use more words such as I think or I feel, and males are more likely just to come out and state the fact. I found that the reason for this, that women tend to be more interested in humans than males are, so they tend to get to the root of the problem. Men tend to use the phrase we more when telling someone to do something. Along with words that male and females use, male and female also use different pitches in their voices, and they often fluctuate. Women often fluctuate their pitch more than men. And this is called phonology, where females tend to use wide ranges of pitches and more variable intonation than men. Males have been found to speak louder and with less fluency than females. And my last supporting detail I found with verbal communication and the differences is women have a different way of offering emotional support, maintenance of relationships, and sharing information. So women offer emotional support in an interesting way. They offer emotional support by showing an interest in the way that a person is feeling, which often it can lead to a man feeling overwhelmed by the interest that the woman is showing to them, and it causes men to withdraw a lot of times. Men offer emotional support by relating to them through past experiences, when a lot of times women just want sympathy. So this is where men and women tend to clash when things get hard. Women maintain relationships through talking about the relationship, and men don't like to talk about the relationship as much. They like to only talk about the relationship when there's a problem and it really needs to be talked about. The last point is the difference between male and female communication. If information sharing, according to Wood, in a story in 2011, is, he says, and I quote, "Because feminine and masculine rules about details differ, men often find female accounts wandering and tedious, while the masculine style of storytelling may strike women as leaving out all the interesting details." So I thought this was really interesting because I've seen that in my personal life as well. We often forget a crucial part of communication is also the nonverbal communication, like body language. And we use nonverbal communication in every single day. How our faces look, everything. We always are looking at body language subconsciously. The difference between male and female body language is very interesting and beneficial to understanding what certain body language signs mean. And I found from greatergoodberkeley.edu, I found that women tend to make longer eye contact than men. Women tend to approach more closely than men. Women are more sensitive to nonverbal cues. Men tend to take up space and are loud in their body movements, and females tend to make each other small. So like an example of this would be women cross their legs when they sit down. There's also a difference between the way men and women interpret facial expressions and use facial expressions to communicate with one another. Women tend to use more facial expressions and tend to gaze into their partner's eyes, while men seem to take more personal space. Women tend to smile more often than men. Women pick up on facial expressions a lot quicker than men. And the last supporting detail with nonverbal communication is touch. So research found a lot of differences between touch, and males were better at conveying and understanding an anger touch, and women were better at conveying a compassion and happy touch. Greatergood.berkeley.edu says they speculate that successfully communicating compassion might be skewed towards women, since according to the evolutionary theory, women throughout human history have taken on a disproportionate amount of the caretaking of their offspring. Indeed, other research has found that women report experiencing more compassion than men do. I hope that I have helped increase your understanding between the male and female differences in communication. There are obvious major differences between these two that dives deep into the verbal and the nonverbal, and it goes so much broader than that. There is really no wrong or right way to communicate. The most important thing about communication is understanding how the two communicate with each other. That is the best way research has found to communicate, is by understanding how your loved one also tends to communicate, so you can communicate the most effectively. A quote that I really liked is from the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus book. And it says, men mistakenly expect women to think, communicate, and react the way men do. Women mistakenly expect men to feel, communicate, and respond the way women do. We have forgotten that men and women are supposed to be different. As a result, our relationships are filled with unnecessary friction and conflict. So I hoped that helped to clear your understanding of male and female communication, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.